Hello, Army of Light, Earth Division, the boots on the ground. It's Shawna L. Francis. Today is October 1st, 2024. Thanks, everybody, the Army of Light, for joining me for today's Decoding the Living Word Bible series with the Order of Melchizedek. We are at a beautiful place right now in humanity's history whereby we are ready to know the Bible in new ways, know Scripture in alternative ways. Melchizedek helped write some of the Bible. We've gone over some of this with Genesis. We're now going to be talking about Numbers today. So I have read through Numbers the last few days, and I'm only this far into the book here, but this is the most I've ever read of the Bible in my whole life, and I'm quite enjoying it, actually. I'm enjoying it in the fact that it's eye-opening, and to be reading it with knowing what we know, knowing what I know about the negative reptilian influence here, the fear-mongering, how we have been subjugated and how we're controlled through texts like this. And of course, today it's all about the mass media. So the powers that be here really wanting to keep us in fear, subservient, unawakened, not conscious, feeling lack and feeling suffering and feeling victimized, all these things. So these are some really important themes that have come up today with Melchizedek. I have quite a lengthy channeling from them, and we cover kind of generally what Numbers talks about with its basic themes, and we talk about Moses and the burning bush. But really, the call here from Melchizedek is to really look more deeply at kind of how the Bible, how these basic ideas of a fearful God, a judging God, has settled into the collective consciousness here all these hundreds of years, and how we judge others and how we view others as separate. So I thought that was really interesting today, how they said, hey, it may be really easy for you to, take a look at the Bible today and say, this stuff's not making sense. It's all contrived and it's a bunch of propaganda. But, that's a fairly recent phenomena. We haven't been really questioning the Bible until the last, well, they said 100 years, last 100 years or so. Really before then, this text wasn't questioned all that much, at least not publicly. And they wanted to really kind of make the point that this stuff's a little bit more ingrained into our psyche than you would expect. So as a collective, even though you could read through Numbers and just dismiss all of it, these are themes that have really been driven home in us, and how we treat each other and how we regard each other. And now is a good time to be taking a look at that. All right. I've been so tired the last couple of weeks. I feel like I'm finally coming out of that. I know it's the change of the seasons here. Melchizedek has said that there's so much new energy, heightened energy coming onto the planet that even light workers are having a tough time keeping up pace, keeping up the vibration. So they said that we're feeling a little bit pummeled by these frequencies. And so they're having discussions in the upper realms about what to do about this, if anything, and they're keeping a closer eye on what's happening. Again, particularly with the star seeds, the light workers, the folks who have chosen to, be a part of the collective that helps raise consciousness here. So maybe that's you. Maybe for me, it's been tired and kind of spacey. For you, maybe it's something else, but yeah, I mean, a lot of chaos happening around, a lot of people going through major transitions, a lot of people awakening and making real changes in their world to get on a path that better suits a higher vibrational living, whether that be getting rid of old relationships or changing jobs or selling a house and moving across the country, or traveling, or picking up something they always wanted to do but never did. So there's a lot of really wonderful changes happening here. Also, I've been doing one-on-one sessions, and they've been quite beautiful. The teams are really showing up. So if you feel like you need some support through this time, I do a donation-based one-on-one sessions with people from all across the world over Zoom, and I'd be happy to speak with you if that sounds interesting. So I'll have the link below and how you contact me to get a one-on-one session going. All right, let's get into the Bible. Let's get into Numbers. So, it's quite a lengthy chapter, and Melchizedek really didn't have any specific passages for me to read, but I did, just for fun, go into Google and I just searched what are the main themes of numbers in the Bible, and Google AI came up with this. Google's AI. And this is quite telling. The major themes of the book of Numbers in the Bible are God's covenant faithfulness despite Israel's repeated rebellion, the importance of obedience to God, the consequences of disobedience, God's provision and protecting of his people, and Israel's journey toward the promised land, where facing numerous trials and challenges that test their faith and commitment to God, highlighting the dynamic between God's mercy and justice throughout their wandering in the wilderness. Yeah, so next is Deuteronomy. Haven't even touched that yet. I don't know, but there's just was a lot of discontent with the Israelites they came out of Egypt, and they were slaves in Egypt, but they came out of Egypt and trying to, like, there's hundreds of thousands of them, I think, in numbers. There's lots of numbers, actually, and I want to say there was 670,000 of them or something like that were kind of wandering in the wilderness and setting up camp and praying to God through Moses, and a lot of complaining about not enough food, not enough water, and that, and just not having faith that God is going to deliver them to the promised land. Okay. Here is Melchizedek and what they had to say about numbers. Where we sit with you all today, an uprising is beginning to take form, take shape. Dear ones, this is an uprising in conscious awareness. Let's take these two words and break them down a bit further. Conscious, bringing to one's attention in a new and expanded way. That which has been hidden outside of the reaches of one's consciousness, now becoming conscious to the forefront of one's existence. Awareness. Similarly, but now the mind is engaged, the intellect. It's a recognition that something has been made present for you in your existence, in your experience. All of this to say, dear ones, the dawning of realization, the mind-expanding opportunities abound in this plane of existence, now bringing conscious awareness to that which has been crafted to be just outside of conscious awareness. The Bible, holy texts in all their forms, once served the purpose of uniting people through a common set of agreements, uniting people through a common set of missions, and also, most importantly, to this conversation we're having in this moment, uniting people through fear, a collective fear, dear ones. To scare a man or a woman by his or herself, while being quite possibly abhorrent in and of itself, does not carry the impact nor the weight of scaring an entire population. Numbers, the fourth book of Moses, as presented in the Old Testament, is a case in point. Submit to the Lord, or ye shall perish. And these are not peaceful, solemn deaths. These are described as putrid, mind-boggling, awe-inspiring deaths that people may experience due to their iniquity, their insurrection, their sin. Submit or die. How can one who reads the scriptures come away with any feeling of reverence, love, honoring, and respect for such a God? The Lord, quoted in these passages as speaking directly to Moses, is not an accurate representation of source, of God. Yeah. Okay, once again, they said, these passages are meant to cast widespread fear among peoples for generations and generations. And it also reinforced the declaration that animal blood must be spilled. Animals must be burned to please the Lord. I mean, Numbers was full of this. It's like every other chapter, every other passage talked about a burnt offering, animal sacrifice, and named all the different animals that would be sacrificed and how they'd be sacrificed. Just hammering it, hammering it, hammering it. Okay, we'll keep going. By now, the misguided concepts contained in these passages are being seen for what they are: propaganda meant to instill fear, for death would surely befall anyone who dare not submit to the Lord and follow all the rules, all the sacrifices, as outlined in so much detail. And they continue here. We see this as a travesty for the original work of Moses. As mentioned, Moses was a channel. He had a direct line of communication with the Order of Melchizedek and other higher dimensional beings of light who wish to enlighten those in the field of consciousness. The oppressors of the day capitalized on an opportunity to assert their doctrine, their belief systems, their fear-based morality onto the people, and this has been very effective. Yes. And more about Moses from Melchizedek here. Moses was a way shower in a very dense field. He was, in fact, meek as described in the Bible. He was nervous about this role. He felt insecure at times about the information flowing through him, yet he persevered, he trusted, all the while being very humble and unassuming. I think most channels can relate to this, nervous about the information coming through, but persevering anyway, Moses saw the burning bush, and a higher power spoke to him there. The burning bush represents an eternal fire, an eternal spark. The bush burned but was not consumed by the flame. It held the flame, it held the spark, it held the light. And this, dear friends, did happen. What a way to get someone's attention. The heat, the dancing flames, the sound of crackling, the smell of smoke, even the energy of the fire, all making a lasting impression on Moses. All right, I'm just going to read a few passages about the burning bush if you hadn't read them before. This is going back to a couple chapters to Exodus, chapter 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. And skipping ahead to verse 13, Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. I am has sent me to you. Okay. All right, Melchizedek continues. I am who I am, the bush said to Moses. The I am presence, the source of all existence. Each and every one of you are of this, made from it, contained within it, exuding it, and embodying it. How can a people be taught that they are also God when subjugation and fear-mongering rule the agendas of those who wish to keep you? In Numbers, Melchizedek says, God was said to have opened up the earth and swallowed thousands of people for not believing in the Lord. And that was Numbers chapter 3. The earth opened its mouth, part of the community fell in alive, and the earth closed back up and consumed them. Who among you dare to question the Lord's ability to take care of you, to lead you, to clothe and feed you? Just sacrifice thousands of animals and pay your tithe and don't complain, and you'll be spared the Lord's wrath. Yeah, disobedience. And Melchizedek continues here. The church deacons who had a heavy hand in forming these stories intentionally conjured imagery that would at once strike fear into people at the awesomeness of God and outline specific rules for conduct. Until now, there hasn't been much room for questioning such specificity as seen in Numbers. Most would agree today that these passages are meant for a bygone era, for people experiencing a much more dense state of consciousness. But we will say to you, dear ones, these messages, these stories are deeply rooted into the psychic fabric of the collective consciousness on this planet. Yeah. God as punisher, God as fearsome, God as judge, God seeking revenge. It's only been relatively recently, dear ones, that you can look very plainly at these ideas and know them to be of a faulty or questionable nature. Even just 100 years ago, most were not willing to question these verses or question the authority of God. Here they continue. It's time for a new understanding. And we know that those of you who have access to these messages understand this deeply. How does one behold a burning bush, or the breath of life, the gaze of another, the miracle of life itself without being in awe of a higher power at work? Conversely, can you hold with the same level of awe and reverence the man who cuts another's throat, the mother who starves her child, the rabid dog who ravages a jogger? Yes, these things are awful. Look at the word we just used, awful, full of awe. The I am presence that shows up as you in human embodiment can indeed see all things from a place of acceptance and grace. And you may ask, how can they say that? These things are terrible. These are travesties, the evilness, the irresponsibility, the tragedy. The highest form of love is seeing the divinity in all things, in all people, in all experience. The judgment of others, which has been so expertly canonized in the Bible through the Lord's actions, is one of the most impervious belief systems of your species. You all believe yourselves as separate, and this helps to make judgment an easy choice. All right, guys, the judgment of others has been one of these things that has been so hit so many times throughout the Bible that it's like it's a natural thing for us to be in judgment, to have judgment, not only for ourselves but for others. And they're saying, these kinds of things run really, really deep in the collective consciousness, that it just feels just very normal for us to be like this, but it's not normal. They continue here. Each and every person alive today has either already committed sin as outlined in the Bible, or will commit sin in this lifetime or in others. So, this judgment runs extremely deep, dear ones. Judgment of others, judgment of self, and shame, guilt, and remorse. Yeah, I think as sensitive light workers, we have a lot of judgment for ourselves. And really, the bottom line here is that unconditional love for yourself is it's of prime importance. When you love yourself unconditionally, you put yourself first in a lot of cases. And that's not to say that you are conceited or ignoring your brothers and sisters and, running around with a big chip on your shoulder. It's about tending to your well-being, putting your well-being as a high priority, as a first priority, making time for joy, making time for love, for laughter, for levity, doing things that lighten your mood, things that inspire you. If you're just slugging through your days, and we've talked about this many times, kind of like on autopilot, time for a shakeup. Time for a shakeup. Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, maybe God, they said, won't open up the ground and swallow you whole because you cheated on a test 3 decades ago, but there's a good chance that you will beat yourself up from where you sit today in this higher consciousness. Insert anything that you regret into that sentence to make it more personal, and you'll see what we mean. Excuse me. If a crime has been committed, there should be repercussions. Many souls before incarnating here choose to experience crime, choose to experience punishment, possibly jail time. It's because they wish to experience this to be in lesson around it or to balance karma. They say here, what we are attempting to bring more fully to the light, to conscious awareness, are the ideas that all who sin are in lesson, all who do good here are in lesson, and you have played both roles many, many times. This is part of awakening to the true nature of this earthbound experience. And for those of you on the ascension pathway, the beacons of light, the way showers, it is a wonderful time to take a closer look at your own judgments for self, for others, for situations. For all who have decided to be here at this time in this moment, have chosen very specific experiences to learn lessons, to balance karma, thereby helping the collective consciousness become more free. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way, that as people work their way through this lifetime, balancing karma, learning lessons, it is helping to free all of us on a collective level. So it's a group effort here. We're really all working together on some level for this reckoning that Melchizedek likes to call this time of reckoning. And a lot of people, a lot of starseeds have taken on incredible amounts of burden from their ancestral lineage, from others. It's like things that have not been able to be cleared for generations are now landing on our plates to be cleared finally. And a lot of us had said, yes, we can do that. And we find ourselves being really buried by all of this karmic balancing that needs to happen, everything that needs to be transmuted or transformed. So, but this is where we find ourselves right now. And they're saying the time is right. Let's really take a look at the judgments. Okay. In the broader view, they said, these nefarious acts, these tragic happenings can teach the individual and the many extremely important lessons on this path of evolution. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us a greater understanding of who each of us are in the likeness of God, the I Am power, Source itself. Let this be what rings true in this moment. Okay. That was a lot. That was a big mouthful. All right. How's everybody doing? Let me know in the comments. Thanks to all the new subscribers, everybody who is kind of tuning in for this alternate version of the Bible teachings. I have no idea where we'll go with this next, but if you're keeping up with the Bible, again, I've gotten to Deuteronomy here and I haven't started that yet, so I'm not sure if that's where we'll be going. All right, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for all the light that you bring. Thanks for working so hard to be that beacon that you are meant to be. This is why you're here on the planet. You're rocking this, and I'm so, so appreciative of you. Okay, guys, I will see you next week, if not sooner. I love you. Mwah.